So I think everybody is there, so we can start now. Get the text, everybody, and then for it is behind the mystery of the presence. That's what we have to read.
We have already read it. You have to redo it.
Okay, I'll read each sentence. Okay. So, if everybody has got the text, I can start.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Yeah, okay, fine. Good. The first sentence. For it is behind the mystery of the presence of personality in an apparently impersonal universe, as in that of consciousness manifesting out of inconscient, life out of the inanimate, soul out of brute matter, that is hidden the solution of the riddle of existence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, and he is explaining that this is a big mystery. Everywhere you see in the physical world, you see matter, you see the wind blowing, you see the sunlight coming, you see everything. They're mechanical, everything seems to be mechanical, and that is the theory of materialism also. Science also is saying that. But there seems to be so much order and so much of purpose, and very, very intentional movements are there in nature. So you must assume that there is a consciousness working somewhere. But science does not admit that. But if you go to a higher level of consciousness, you see that there is the divine, a Lord is there behind, guiding all these things. He is hiding himself in the inconscient. He is hiding himself. It's very, very similar to a drama being enacted on the stage. Okay, but the stage seems to be, I mean, the actors are all acting. You don't see the director anywhere. Okay, the director is nowhere. Even if you go to an exhibition hall, you see all his paintings. The world is his paintings, his expressions. But he is not there anywhere. The artist may not be there anywhere. He is hiding at home. Or very another similar also example, that when the actor forgets his lines, there is someone in the wings, not seen by the public, who is making sure that even if he forgets his lines, he will be guided from there. He whispers to him the next line or the next words. So this is exactly what is happening in the physical world. Everything seems to be mechanical and going on. It's a drama in the world. But the divine is there hiding behind, making sure that everything proceeds absolutely as per planned. That is exactly what he is saying. And what is that? The personality. God is a person. There is a personality. But in the physical world and even in the higher worlds, you see only impersonality everywhere. Even when you go to the self, you don't see the personal divine. Okay? You see only the impersonal aspect. When you go to the self also, you have a sense of infinity, you have a sense of freedom, you have knowledge, you have power, you have ananda, but nobody is there. Okay. So this is the mystery. In the physical world also you see who has created all these things with so much purpose and so much plan. When you see everything in the physical world a little carefully, you will see that there is a plan working. The trees that grow, okay, there's such a sequence and logic behind everything. The birds migrating, there is a logic to it. But he is there in the wings guiding the whole thing. That's what he's saying. Okay. Or what is the mystery of the world? The mystery of the world is that everything is proceeding so well planned, but how can it be? It can't be mechanical. That's a mystery. How is it? Who is guiding this? That's a mystery. Of personality in an apparently impersonal universe as that of consciousness manifesting out of inconscient. How can the inconscient produce consciousness? How can life come out of that which is dead, out of matter? How can soul come out of brute matter? That is hidden, the solution of the riddle of existence. You have to admit that there is a personal God, a master of existence, who is guiding all these things. Now, here again is another dynamic duality, more pervading than appears at first view and deeply necessary to the play of the slowly self-revealing power. So he's saying that We have discussed this many times, and he has also listed, now there are so many dualities. And what are the dualities? The dualities go on changing, okay? As you keep rising, the duality, the nature of the dualities also go on changing. In the physical world, the dualities are love and hate, okay? Compassion and cruelty, light and darkness, hot and cold, all the other opposites. They are the dualities in the physical world. But when you go to the spiritual level of consciousness, you see these dualities become one. Hot and cold are really the same thing at two different extremes. Okay, I am showing you on my, one is here, one is there. That is the, you understand. But there is another more mysterious duality. There seems to be a person, there seems to be a consciousness, but there also seems to be a force, and there is no connection between them. So this is what Srimbi is talking about. And then, first of all, they are unconnected. That's the first duality. There is consciousness and there is unconsciousness, mechanical force. This is the first duality. Then you see that they are connected to a certain extent. Okay, there is a connection. So Purusha and Prakriti, consciousness and force, these are the words you can use. Okay, Brahman and matter, all equivalent words. Purusha, Brahman, spirit, you can all use at different levels. They are the same thing, but in different grades. In the physical world, you can use nature, okay, Prakriti, Shakti. They are also all the same. So this difference is there, and as you keep climbing higher and higher, there is a connection between them, but they are different. Only when you go to the highest level, then you see that they are really one. The phenomenon of the one becoming the many is solved only at the supreme level, at the spiritual level. You see that Shakti and Chit Shakti, consciousness and force are really one at the highest level. But as they keep coming down, they separate because the law of one becoming the many applies. So it becomes separate. So the duality persists right up to the overmind level. Okay? So even right up to the overmind level, the persistence is there. Only at the supramental level, you see that it's a, there are so many different types of dualities. That's what he said. So I read the next one. Okay. Here again is another dynamic duality. Now, he is using the word dynamic. In other words, there's duality. You have the power to do something in the physical world. First of all, it is silent, the inactive Brahman. There is no dynamism in it. You are in a consciousness which is absolutely static, immutable, immobile. That's the first duality. The second duality, you see that there is a connection between the two. So you can also start dictating terms to your body-mind life. You become the Anumanta. Okay, this is there in the Gita. Nowhere else is so clearly enunciated except in the Gita. Not in the Upanishads even. To a certain extent maybe, but not clearly. So you become the Anumanta. There is a connection. If there is a connection between your soul and your body-mind life, you can change things there. That's a second. Then as you keep going up higher and higher, you see that yes, you can change and more power is there, yet they seem to be two different things. So then the next one is, he says, your human consciousness can be in the Chit. At that time the physical world is absolutely mechanical, and sometimes your consciousness can be in the Shakti, and then that time the Chit, the spirit does not seem to be there. Okay, and sometimes it is there in both. Sometimes here, sometimes there. All these are possibilities in spiritual experience. Okay, so this is what one has to keep in mind. So now he is saying there is a dynamic duality. There is a difference, and yet there is a connection. You can change your body-mind life even from the second level of the spiritual planes of consciousness. That's what he's saying. Here again is another dynamic duality, more pervading than appears at first view. The first view is they are different, but now the second or third view is there is a connection and I can change my body-mind life, deeply necessary to the play of the slowly revealing, self-revealing power. The connection between the two is being revealed to you in slow steps. Okay. Again we come back to that Gita's. First of all, you are the Sakshi, you are the witness. No connection between the body, mind, life and you. Number one. Number two, you become the Anumanta. A slight connection comes and you become the permission giver to the body, mind, life to have experience in the physical world. Experience the bad and the good. Experience, then only you will know what is what. Because unless you know what the enemy is, you can't conquer him. So you must know the enemy. And if you want to know the enemy, you have to associate with him. So evil and good, okay? All these things are to be experienced by the soul. So you have permitted the soul, the body, mind, life to do that. So then the next step is you become the jnata. You start becoming more and more understanding why this is there. Then you become the bharta. You become the supporter. The spirit is supporting matter. Purusha is supporting Prakriti. Then finally, at the highest level, you become the master. So, and you also become the enjoyer, bhokta. Okay. So, Sakshi, Anumanta, Jnata, Bharta, Bhokta. You become, and then finally, you become Ishvara, master of existence. Purushottama. Purusha Uttama. Okay. Your soul in the matter is the Kshara Purusha. The psychic being is Kshara. It is evolving. It is not static. Okay, that is Kshara Purusha. Your consciousness goes to the second level. You become Akshara Purusha. You become the immutable static condition of consciousness. Far, infinite, eternal. You realize your immortality, but no power in the physical world. Akshara. You go even higher up, then you become the Purushottama, Uttama Purusha. Kshara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, Uttama Purusha. That's why we speak of three levels. Okay. But remember that in level 1 also there are three grades: matter, life, mind. And in the second level also of the spiritual planes of consciousness, everybody will list in different ways, but Sri Aurobindo lists 4. Higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind, overmind. And then finally, above the overmind is the supermind, which is the Purushottama consciousness. Okay. But you must be very clear. Somebody asked a question to Sri Aurobindo, is the supermind the same as the Purushottama? So Sri Aurobindo said, no, it is not really the same, but supermind is a power of the Purushottama. Okay? So there is a difference, but at the same level. Okay? Like the sun and its power to give heat and light, exactly in the same way. So the supermind is a power of the Ishvara, of the master. And who is this master? God, who is omnipotent, omniscient and omnipresent. So this is what he is saying. These are the description of the different dualities. Okay. So now I go to the next sentence. It is possible for the seeker in his spiritual experience, standing at one pole of the duality, to follow mind in seeing a fundamental impersonality everywhere. Okay, that's the experience of the nirvana, of the self, the Brahman consciousness. You see everywhere impersonality. You have a vast feeling of vastness and freedom, but nobody is there. Okay. There are many poems also which describe this fundamental experience. Srendra has discussed this thing in his correspondence with Amal. Walter de la Mare has a poem called The Listeners, in which this is there. So, then he is saying it is possible for the seeker in his spiritual experience, standing at one pole of the duality, in chit, in consciousness, to follow mind in seeing a fundamental impersonality everywhere. The evolving soul in the material world begins from a vast impersonal inconscience. Matter is vast, infinite, and it is inconscient. There does not seem to be any consciousness in it, in which our inner sight yet perhaps perceives the presence of a veiled infinite spirit. If you are at a very, very physical level, you don't see that. But if there is a slight awakening and you get touches of some spiritual experience, you see that what seems to be unconscious, there is a consciousness behind. Okay? Yet perceives the presence of a veiled infinite spirit. You start having a glimpse of the author, the artist. You are seeing only the paintings, but you see also you get a glimpse that, oh, there must be an artist somewhere. It proceeds with the emergence of a precarious consciousness. He is talking of matter which produces a precarious consciousness. That is the life. But life precarious. Why? Because the first signs of life are very, very temporary. Some very, very small things, the um, unicellular creatures, I don't know how long they last, but but we know very well that butterflies and moths and all that, they live for a very short time. So precarious. Life is there, but precarious. It is born and it dies. Okay? So, precarious consciousness and personality. So that which was life starts becoming individual units of life. Animalcules, calls them. Very, very small units of life. Animalcules. Unicellular creatures, worms, caterpillars, then slowly, slowly higher forms of life, okay? That even at their fullest have the look of an episode. Which is the fullest you can have? Man can be, he can live for 100 years, and the Himalayas can live for maybe 10,000 years, okay? And the trees, there are huge trees in California which live for 400, 500 years. Even the banyan trees in India also live for a long time. So, however full they are, Chandra is saying, they have look of an episode. An episode is something that starts and ends. In other words, very, very transient. Everything in the physical world, however long it may live, it is transient. But an episode that repeats itself in a constant series. So everything that is born and has a life element and life form is born again and again. That's what he's saying. It arises. In man, it is rebirth, it is called rebirth. But the tree, for instance, okay, it may die, but it produces seeds which again sprouts up from the earth. So everything, right from the lowest level to the highest level, we have things which are going on, being reborn. Okay, we have discussed the smallest one, but now what about the Himalayas? Can they be reborn? Not Himalayas, but perhaps something else, because the continental plates are going on moving, na? So naturally it can produce it can produce mountains. Okay, that's happening all the time. Earthquakes are happening. Okay, and the levels are changing. So this is what Sanjay is saying. An episode, look of an episode that repeats itself in a constant series, goes on, goes on. There's no end to it. The rebirth in man and in animals also, that is there. It arises through experience of life out of mind into the infinite, impersonal and absolute superconscious, in which personality, mind consciousness, life consciousness seem all to disappear by liberating annihilation. So, this is the experience of the self, the Brahman consciousness. You are not aware of your body anymore, you are not aware of your mind anymore, you are not even aware of your life, okay? You are out of your body, mind, life, they don't even seem to exist. It can be like that, or they seem to exist but outside you. This is a liberating annihilation. Why is he calling it liberating? Because the soul is trapped, imprisoned in the body, mind, life, and when you come out of it, you realize that, oh my God, this is a prison house, and now I am free. So that's why liberating annihilation. But what is being annihilated? Not the soul, but the body, mind, life is being annihilated. Okay, nirvana. At a lower pitch, he still experiences this fundamental impersonality as an immense liberating force everywhere. What is this lower pitch that he's talking about? The spiritual force only, at a spiritual level plane of consciousness, but he still experiences the fundamental impersonality as an immense liberating force everywhere. The level 1, there is no liberation, but you don't know that you are a prisoner. Okay? You feel that you are free, and everybody thinks that I am free to do what I want. Actually, it is nature which is making you dance to its own tune, and you are ignorant of that. But when you go to the level 2, the Brahman consciousness, then you realize that, oh my God, I was a prisoner and now I am free. How wonderful it is. You feel that liberating, infinite sense of infinity. That's what he's saying. at a lower pitch, he still experiences this fundamental impersonality. Lower pitch in the second level, okay? At a lower pitch, he still experiences this fundamental impersonality as an immense liberating force everywhere. When you are at level 1, you don't feel a liberating force at all. He releases his knowledge from the narrowness of personal mind. Personal mind is our intellectual mind, limited form. His will from the clutch of personal desire. Okay, so he's talking of the mind, he's talking of the vital, and he's talking using a very interesting word, clutch. Your desire actually traps you and clutches you and hangs on to you. Try and get rid of your desire, you will see it's not that easy. It goes on insisting. So he's using the word clutch. Clutching you. His heart from the bondage of petty, mutable emotions. Petty, mutable emotions, not big emotions. There can be vast, big emotions, but there can also be very petty emotions. Selfishness, okay, anger, jealousy, envy, small desires, all these things. His life from its petty personal groove, his soul from ego, and it allows them to embrace calm, equality, wideness, universality, infinity. These 5 words are the characteristics of the Brahman consciousness, the self. When you are in that consciousness, there is a calmness. Nothing is affecting you. It is affecting your body, mind, life, but you are separate. You are just watching as though it is somebody else who is having. You are absolutely calm and quiet. Equality. Nothing is affecting you. You are equal to everything. Equality, one has to interpret correctly. It does not mean to say that you are seeing everything is equal to each other. A murderer and a sadhu is not equal to each other. You are seeing differences, but you are not affected by that. That is what is meant by equality. Your inner being is equal to everything. Wideness. That's it. You are not trapped in the body, mind, life anymore. You are there everywhere. Sarvagatam, as they say. Okay. Or you can choose the omnipresence. You feel yourself to be everywhere. Universality. Wideness and universality, there is some connection between the two words. Infinity also. No more limitations. A yoga of works would seem to require personality as its mainstay. Now he is saying that this is usually what happens in the Jnana Yoga. But when you are doing a yoga of works, a karma yoga, you are offering everything to the divine, so you require a personality. So that's what he is mentioning. A yoga of works, karma yoga, would seem to require personality as its mainstay, almost its source. But here too, the impersonal is found to be the most direct liberating force. Even karma yoga also takes you to the nirvana experience, the Brahman experience, the self, the Atman. It is through a wide, egoless impersonality that one can become a free worker and a divine creator. So, when you attain to the self, you feel yourself to be free, but if you go slightly higher, you become an instrument of the divine. And you can become a free worker and a divine. What is meant by free worker? You are not attached to the work you are doing. You are not attached to the fruits of what you are doing. When we do something, we are always expecting success. We are expecting success, but you are not expecting any success. You are just doing something without any worries and without any sense of responsibility. That sense of responsibility is very interesting because nature is doing, okay? But through you, your soul is not responsible for what's happening. And a divine creator. Now, that's interesting. When we are in our normal consciousness, are we a creator? Yes, we do create emotions. We also create even physical things. The mind of man is creating mobile, it is creating computers, it is creating the car. So you are a creator, but the divine is creating also. So what's the difference between the divine creator and the human creator? The human creator is using materials which has already been created by the divine. Okay. When I am making a car, I am using steel, I am using iron which is already existing. But the divine is creating things which don't seem to exist. He is the original creator. That's the difference between a divine creator and a human creator. It is not surprising that the overwhelming power of this experience from the impersonal pole of the duality, when you are in the self, should have moved the sages to declare that this is the one way and an impersonal superconscious to be the sole truth of the eternal. You don't need to, when you are in the level 1, it is the falsehood, it is not the truth. That's what the Jnana Yogins will say. Jnana Yoga, Raj Yoga, they will say that. And Swami is saying it's very understandable. He's saying it is not at all surprising because so powerful is that experience. Okay? That the overwhelming power of this experience from the impersonal pole of the duality. The duality, Purusha, Prakriti. You are in Purusha and you see that that's the ultimate, you feel like that. Okay? Should have moved the sages to declare this to be the one way and an impersonal superconscious to be the sole truth of the eternal, not the physical world. The physical world is the opposite pole and it is not the reality. The reality is the Brahman consciousness. That's what in India that has been the main idea in yoga. But Srimdev says elsewhere that it is not the only idea. In India, we have had many, many other ideas also. Okay, I just mentioned one or two. The Gita, for instance, does not say to reject the physical world. They say remain in the physical world and have a divine consciousness, but don't be affected by the impurities of the physical world. Then there is a story of, if you remember, what's his name? Trishanku. Okay? He wanted to go to heaven with his body. Now, what does that mean? That means even while he is in the physical consciousness, he wants to experience the divine. So, this is put symbolically as he wanted to go to heaven but with his body. Now, that's usually not possible. You have to leave the body behind and then only go up. That's what happened. But these ideas have been there in the Indian tradition. Okay? He didn't succeed, of course, and that's why he had to hang in the middle. Now, Srendu is taking up that Trishanku idea, going to heaven with your body, but in the Trishanku image, you are going up with your body. But in Srendu's yoga, the divine is coming down into your body. There is a descent. Okay, so that is the same idea seen from another point of view. So, the idea that the Buddhistic idea of escape from the physical world has been dominating the Indian scene, but that's not the only one. There have been other ideas also. That's what Sridhar is saying. Okay, so now we can read the next para, but still to the seeker standing at the opposite pole. Shall we read that? Who will read? Anyone? Quickly. We got 15 minutes. Yeah, Tarika? Yeah. Go ahead. Okay, read.
But still, to the seeker, standing at the pole of the duality. Maybe just 1 second, another.
Yeah, take your time.
My AC is making too much noise, so it is disturbing. Maybe that's me. Okay. But still, to the seeker standing at the opposite pole of the duality, another line of experience appears, which justifies an intuition deeply seated behind the heart and in our very life force. That personality, like consciousness, life, soul, is not a brief lived stranger in an impersonal eternity, but contains the very meaning of existence. This fine flower of the cosmic energy carries in it a forecast of the aim and a hint of the very motive of the universal labor. As an occult vision opens in him, he becomes aware of worlds behind in which consciousness and personality hold an enormous place and assume a premier value. Even here in the material world, to this occult vision in the inconscience of matter fills with a secret pervading consciousness. Its inanimation harbors a vibrant life. Its mechanism is the device of an indwelling intelligence. God and soul are everywhere. Above all stands an infinite conscious being who is variously self expressed in all these worlds. Impersonality is only a first means of that expression. It is a field of principles and forces, an equal basis of manifestation, but these forces express themselves through beings, have conscious spirits at their head, and are the emanation of a conscious being who is their source. A multiple innumerable personality expressing that one is the very sense and central aim of the manifestation. And if now personality seems to be narrow, fragmentary, restrictive, it is only because it has not opened to its source or flowered into its own divine truth and fullness, packing itself with the universal and the infinite. Thus, the world creation is no more an illusion, a fortuitous mechanism, a play that need not have happened, a flux without consequence. It is an intimate dynamism of the conscious and living eternal.
Yeah. So, beautiful para. And now he's saying the opposite pole. He has spoken about the other one when you are standing in the Brahman consciousness above the body mind life in the transcendent consciousness. Now he is discussing the other one, that when you are in the physical world, in your body mind life, yet you are not ignorant. Okay, that's another experience that is possible. You see the divine presence everywhere in the universe. That also is possible. Normally, we are not aware of a divine presence anywhere. Okay, we see trees, we see buildings, we see everything, but there doesn't seem to be any divine presence anywhere. But it is possible to experience that. Let's see what is called the theistic philosophy. Okay, it's the what is it called? Pantheism. Pantheism. You see God everywhere. The word pan means wide, okay, everywhere. Like you have panorama, okay. So pan means everywhere, okay, and that's why even the nature God is called Pan, okay. So pantheism is seeing the divine everywhere in nature. That is what Srimad is describing here, okay. So we start reading. I think we can just finish this para today. So I start reading. But still, to the seeker standing at the opposite pole of the duality. The previous paragraph, you are standing in the Brahman consciousness and looking down in the physical world, and sometimes the physical world is absolutely unreal, but sometimes, even if it is real, it is separate from you. That also is another duality. The world is not unreal. Okay, for the Buddhists, the world is unreal. For Shankara, the world is not unreal, but it is separate. Okay? So that's the thing. It is real, but with defects and with imperfections. So you have to, even Shankara says, you have to go to the higher level. You have to go to level 2, okay? Not level 1. But here comes Sriyando, and he is saying that even level 1 it is possible to have a divine consciousness. Okay? So, but still to the seeker, standing at the opposite pole of the duality, that means now you are down in the physical world. Another line of experience appears which justifies an intuition deeply seated behind the heart and in our very life force, that personality, like consciousness, life, soul, is not a brief-lived stranger in the impersonal eternity, but contains the very meaning of existence. In India, it is very, very common to get the idea, it is percolated into every family, tell you that there is God. And God is not an impersonal force, but a personal force. He is directing everything in the physical world. Okay. I just mentioned something very interesting to you. Jugalda told me this himself. Okay. Jugalda was our in charge of knowledge, the higher course. And he came from a very, very, very poor family. Okay. They were so poor that even food was difficult. His father had died and his mother was bringing up the children. He had a sister also. And I'm telling you this to tell you with what difficulty he came, because they usually mothers are very fond of the male children. They are very fond of their sons, but they don't care so much for the daughters. Usually, it's not absolutely a fact, but the fathers usually like the daughters and not so much the. And this is the general rule. So in this case, she was very poor. Her husband had died, and Jola was a small child. So she used to go somehow get some money. She used to go pick up leaves and all that, and somehow or other feed them. But there was so much of poverty that he told me himself this, that his sister actually died of malnutrition. Just imagine, because she was whatever food was available was being given to him. He told me this. So, and he was told, I'm coming to this, why I'm saying this. His mother told him, I'll tell you in Bengali, মনে রেখো যাদের কেউ নাই তাদের ভগবান আছে. So you understand, just remember this, okay, that those who are absolutely helpless in the world, without any relatives, without any help, without any support from anywhere, God is there for them. Okay, so this is what she pushed into his head. Now this I'm mentioning, but this is so common in India. The idea that there is a God, okay, is pushed into everybody. Of course, Indian society can also produce agnostics and disbelievers, but this is usually in India, it is very, very common. So this is what Swami is saying, and it's an intuition somewhere that there is a divine. Okay, that is what Swami is saying. Deeply seated, an intuition deeply seated behind the heart and in our life force. That personality, like consciousness, life, soul, is not a brief-lived stranger in an impersonal entity, but contains the very meaning of existence. Even in the physical world, there is God, okay? And He is the personal aspect. This fine flower of the cosmic energy carries in it a forecast of the aim and hint of the very motive of the universal labor. Same day speaking in very wide philosophical terms, he is speaking of impersonal and personality, and I am translating that into the God identity. Okay, that's a personal. Okay, so this flower of the cosmic energy carries in it a forecast. Okay. In a spiritual consciousness, you can experience the personal aspect of the divine also. It's a forecast of the aim and hint of the very motive of the universal labor. Universe is laboring through so many difficulties. There is suffering, pain, okay, failure, okay, opposition. All these things are only the universal labor, but behind all this there is a purpose. As an occult vision opens in him. So, as occult is secret, the secret vision opens in him. He becomes aware of worlds behind, in which consciousness and personality hold an enormous place and assume a premier value. You start seeing that even in these worlds, there is the Purusha aspect is there. It's not only the Prakriti, impersonal force, but also the Purusha. There is a consciousness which is personal. Becomes aware of worlds behind. Behind means in the intraconscient. Behind is usually used for the intraconscient. Above is used usually for the spiritual planes of consciousness, vertically up. But behind is usually horizontally deep inside yourself. Okay, that's why you use the word behind or above. And in which consciousness and personality hold an enormous place and assume a premier value. Very, very important. Even here in the material world, to this occult vision, the inconscience of matter fills with a secret pervading consciousness. This is the pantheism that I was speaking about. You see, you feel the divine presence everywhere. Its inanimation, no life anywhere, inanimation harbors a vibrant life. You see the life itself. Okay? Take the seed, it doesn't seem to be living, but it can create a tree. Okay? Inanimation harbors a vibrant life. Matter can produce life. Its mechanism is a device of an indwelling intelligence. There is a purpose and there is a There is a consciousness even in the unconscious. God and soul are everywhere. Now above, he has spoken of behind, now he is saying above. Above all stands an infinite conscious being. Now these three words, infinite conscious being, is the personal aspect. Okay? Because consciousness may not be there, you feel that it is not there in the impersonal. But infinite conscious being suggests very clearly a personality, as divine God, okay, who is variously self-expressed in these words. Variously, because he is expressing himself through everything, through stones, through very, very small life forms, bigger life forms, man, okay, are variously self-expressed in all these words. Impersonality is only a first means of their expression. In the spiritual planes, the experience of the Brahman is only a first experience. It's a field of principles and forces, an equal basis of manifestation. But these forces express themselves through beings. Now, this is a phrase which we will expand on. Have conscious spirits at their head and are emanation of one conscious being who is at their source. So, look at the words carefully. He is saying it is a field of principles and forces. Okay? There is force. There is all these things which are there, they are impersonal. Okay? The wind is impersonal, the sunlight is impersonal, the river flowing is impersonal. But all of these have got a personal aspect behind. Okay? This is something that we have to understand. Personality and impersonality are only two poles of the same thing. Okay? To put it very, very crudely, okay, I'll tell you, you have to, you may laugh a little bit, but it is very explanative, okay, explanatory, sorry. So, you take a gas, okay, a cylinder of your cooking gas, okay, it is limited, no? It is put into a 14 kilo cylinder, it is limited. But you open it, what will happen? It will go everywhere. Now it is not there in the cylinder anymore, it is there everywhere. Sarvagatam, it is everywhere. It is omnipresent. The gas has expanded everywhere. So the two are the same. That's exactly the principle of the personality and the impersonality. A very crude example, but it helps to understand that impersonality and personality are really the same, but one is a condensed condition and one is an expanded condition. That's what he's saying. Impersonal. So, the truth of this is this, that wind is impersonal, but is there a personality behind it? Yes, there is a wind god. Okay? Marut. Okay? Then the sea is impersonal. Is there a personality behind that force? Yes, there is Varuna. Okay? Mind consciousness, okay? Thought is impersonal. But is there a god behind that? Yes, there is Indra. Okay? So this is what you see, that everywhere consciousness and unconsciousness are related. Okay? So the impersonal aspect of the divine, there is also a personal aspect of the divine. Don't think that these gods are imaginary and only myths and mythology. No, it is not. They represent everything that is impersonal. As I said, condensed and expanded. Okay. So this is what he says.
Rangada, what are principles? Rangada, what are principles?
Okay, a heat is a principle, liberation is a principle, freedom is a principle. Okay, truth is a principle. Okay, power is a principle. Principle is the impersonal aspect of everything.
Okay.
No? These are all principles. Justice is principle, but you have a judge who is the personal aspect of the principle of justice. No?
Okay. Okay.
In that sense. So, it says so. But these forces express themselves through beings of conscious spirits at their head. So this is exactly what. In fact, I'll go one step further. It is absolutely true. For instance, take the any species. Take the serpents, because Mother has spoken about that. Take the serpents. Is there a king of serpents? Yes, there is. Okay. Take all the vegetation. Is there a deity behind the vegetation? Yes, there is. Okay. In the Findhorn garden, this is mentioned. Okay. It's very interesting. In fact, Mother had an interaction with the snake god, if you want, okay, or the snake personality. They came to mother and said, let's have a pact. You will see this in the, it is there in the author theme. So that serpent told mother that let's have a pact. I will not harm any of your disciples and you will not harm any of my disciples. That is, you will not kill any snake. Mother said, I'm sorry, but I can't take that responsibility. Why? Because I don't have total control over all my disciples. So that did not take place. But this story illustrates how there is a personality behind everything which is impersonal. So this is an idea which you must have firmly in your head. Personality and impersonality are always related. In the physical world also you have that. Okay, you have a kingdom, but you have a god. Okay, every department. Okay, the police department has a what is it called? The police commissioner. Okay, so everywhere you have. Okay, in a university you have the president or the chairman. Okay, so everywhere this idea is repeated even at the lowest levels. This is what Sandhu is pointing out. Impersonality and personality are very much connected. But when you are in the spiritual plane of consciousness, see, you don't see the personality. But you go higher up, you will see the personality. That's what Sandhu is saying. Okay? So, I'll take 2 minutes more and finish because we are at 8:36, but I'll just finish the paragraph. A multiple, innumerable personality expressing that one is the very sense and central aim of the manifestation. And if now personality seems to be narrow, fragmentary, all human beings are fragmented. We don't see each other as one. Restrictive, it's only because it has not opened to its source or flowered into its own divine truth and fullness, packing itself with the universal and the infinite. Thus, the world creation is no more an illusion. So when you see the divine presence everywhere, it's possible to, but necessarily you have to go above the Brahman consciousness. It's no more an illusion. It is not a fortuitous mechanism as the materialists are saying. The world has come into existence, I don't know how, by some chance, that's what they say. But it's not like that to one who experiences the divine everywhere. A play that need not have happened. Okay? That is what many Western philosophers also say. The world is a mistake. It has come into creation through a mistake because there is so much of imperfection here. How could it be? A flux without consequence. A flux is a movement without any denouement, without any climax. Okay? All stories, to be satisfactory, must have a climax. Okay? An end, which is very, very satisfactory. But the world seems to be constantly repetition of the same thing. But it is not like that when you experience the divine consciousness everywhere. It is an intimate dynamism of the conscious and living eternal. Okay? So, next time. So, in other words, they briefly, consciousness and Shakti, one consciousness can be personal and the Shakti can be impersonal, but they can also be opposites. Consciousness can also be impersonal and Shakti also can be personal. Okay? They are only two poles of the same thing. That's what it is. They are not separate. But this you experience, you get glimpses of that even in the second level, but in the third level, absolutely you realize that there is only a one everywhere. Okay? So, Sonki, note down this extreme opposition. That's what we have to do on page 128.
Yes.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay.
Merci. Bonjour, Rangada.
Bonjour everybody. Bonjour.
Thank you, Rangada.
Have a nice day everybody, all of you. Okay.
Bye.